All right, you should have by now already done the short film and the Walt Whitman poem, or the subway poem. And you should have already talked about what it is to have an anecdotal or interpretive response to these pieces of work. What we're going to talk about is some other forms of responses. So we've done the analytical, also known as the interpretive response, and two of the other forms we'd like to talk about are the editorial way of responding and the anecdotal method of responding to a text or a film or a short story or a novel. These are all ways you can respond to the novel effectively. All right, we're going to, as an example, we're going to use a Shakespearean poem. The reason we're using a Shakespearean poem is A, Shakespeare's awesome, and B, this Thursday we actually have a Shakespearean play coming in, and it would be good for us to get used to some of the language. So the one we're using this time is called My Lady's Eyes. So we're going to read it together, and then I want you to, after I'm done reading, I'm going to ask you to pause this. I'm going to ask you to take down some notes about what you see, what metaphors you see, what what exaggerations you might hear, anything like that, any of the figurative language that you've heard your teacher speak about. So similes, metaphors, hyperboles, etc. So I want you to keep those in mind as you read. Do a close reading as we go. All right, so this is it here. My lady's eyes are nothing like the sun. Roses are far more red than her lips red. If snow is white, why then her skin is gray. If hairs are wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses in bloom, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes there is more delight than in the breath that from my lady reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music has a far more pleasing sound. I grant I've never seen a goddess go, but my lady, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love is rare, as any created with false compare. All right, there's a lot going on in that poem. I want you to, at this point, pause. I want you to go through it and see what you find in the poem. What's going on? Remember, the first line of any Shakespearean poem is usually one of the most important, as well as the last two. In any Shakespearean poem, it's the last two and the first line that's going to set up most of your context for you. So before you actually get started, let's just talk briefly about that first line. My lady's eyes are nothing like the sun. Right away, you should be asking yourself, usually when I talk about, remember this is Shakespeare, a male. When I'm talking about a lady, don't we usually compare her eyes to stuff like the sun, like the stars? My lady's eyes are like the sun. They shine down on me and warm me by day. That's not what's going on here. That's not what's going on. My lady's eyes are nothing like the sun. So right away you should be asking yourself, what is going on in this poem? And the last two lines, and yet by heaven, I think my love is rare, as any created with false compare. Those two lines are going to be your two most important. So pause, go through this, see what you can pull out.